I want to ask you about a couple situations. I went down to Rio de Janeiro, I think probably in the mid 2000s, and everyone told me like, watch yourself down there. And I was pretty good most of the time, and I use the same techniques I kind of use in London as well. When I see like a group of young kids, what I do is I usually make eye contact with them, or at least in their general direction, and I just try to show that I'm doing boom, 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 and I just let them know that I'm aware they're there if I have to, or I'm just kind of aware of what's going on. I'm swiveling, and I'm just trying to let everyone know that I'm looking. And I found that even though I'm not the biggest of guys, I feel like they say to themselves, you know what, I'm just going to wait for the old lady. I'm going to wait for the more clueless tourist, because I rarely had a problem. I mean, I did have a couple kids run up on me on the beach asking me for change, and I quickly realized they didn't want change. And my instinct was to run, and that was a great idea. And it worked out really well. But like, I use this technique in London and used to in New York, and it seems to work pretty good so far. Am I doing some things right, or am I doing some things wrong?
I think if it's been working, then it's right. If you haven't found yourself in a bad situation, then keep doing what you're doing, right? I mean, the reality is confidence goes a long ways, and like you already mentioned, bad guys that either plan and conduct these criminal acts for a living, or the more opportunistic predators that just see a weak person and go, oh, I bet they got $5 or whatever, right? Regardless of which kind of bad guy, confidence goes a long ways against those folks. I think the only consideration is culture, right? Is staring someone in the eyes going to, increase the odds, right? Because in some cultures, you stare someone in the eyes and they're going to get aggressive. If you avoid eye contact, then, so I think for the scenario where you've got a gang of kids and you're looking at them, letting them know, hey, I see you, and you're walking with confidence and keeping your wits about you, I think that goes a long way no matter which country you're in.
Yeah, it is a fine line for sure. And what I try to do usually is I try to just go bam, 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 because I want the other ones to see I looked at the other ones, and I want them to be, I was like bam, 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 and then I keep it going. And I just think that they're just going to be like, well, did he look at me? Did he look at them? And then it's just maybe not worth it. But I know what you mean. You might be in the one situation where you get the, what are you looking at?
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah. It looks like a challenge.
yeah. And then when you got three kids, you never know what the hierarchy is, what the background is. And one of them might not want to look bad. And then you might, stumble into something. You talked about awareness there. And in the book, you talk about the total awareness system, and you have various different awarenesses. You got the situational awareness, the personal awareness. You just mentioned the cultural awareness, which is really important. Third party awareness, and then you kind of go into some other, interesting things in there. Can you break down at least some of those and explain what people need to know about that, and how you kind of qualify those?
Yeah. So the background on total awareness, which is broken into those four pieces that you just, listed. I was traveling abroad, working alone on a regular basis, and in between deployments, I'd come back and I'd go to the NSA or CIA and all these agencies and say, I feel like I should have an education, like on being the gray person, the person who can blend in, the person when you're at the airport, the one you don't see walk by when you're sitting there waiting. We all do people watching. And I started noticing, like, wait a minute, I'm paying attention to certain people, usually based on my own interests or ego or whatever, right? And we notice those things. Hey, I've got a Panerai watch just like that guy, or hey, those are those high heel shoes with the red bottoms on it that cost a lot of money, or we pick up on the things that are, it's all racked and stacked up here in our heads. In the meantime, you've got 100 people that just walked by behind those folks you didn't even notice. And why, right? And so I was noticing this. So I had assumed, okay, somebody in all the interagencies had to have put a course together or some kind of education to teach you how to blend in and be like that 100 people that just walked by that I never noticed. And I went knocking on a bunch of doors, and at that time there was nothing. And so then I started compiling my notes. My notes became a 3-ring binder And then the 3-ring binder became Escape the Wolf, the book. And so through my travels, I was like, there's all this concentration on the situational awareness, but there's actually more to it. And so that's what I call total awareness, where you start with personal awareness. And this is projection and demeanor management, right? Like how you're dressed right there, how you project yourself in your Instagram videos, and how you show up to do this interview. You have a style, you have a thing that's yours, and it sets you apart from everybody else, right? And that's because on personal awareness and projection demeanor, it's our ego that dresses us in the morning, because we do want to stand out. We want to be separate from everybody else. It's normal, especially here in America, right? So what you have to do when you're doing that, though, is go, all right, you have to ask yourself, do I look like a target when I dress like this in the area in which I live or where I work or where I'm traveling, right? So that goes back to anything expensive. Check yourself. Nope. Any tattoos that are exposed that could be offensive, like my big American flag, right? You cover them up. Is there any big logos, name brands, bright colors, right? So you got to just ask yourself those questions before you walk out. It's probably the most important thing to be aware of, and that is yourself, right? Because it's those third parties, right? So third party awareness is one of the pieces of total awareness that are going to observe it. That could be criminals, it could be law enforcement, foreign intel services, or what I like to always use because of the nature of the work I was doing. It's the grandma in the window that sits there at 3 p.m. every day with her cafe and chocolate and likes to watch everybody on the streets. And she knows everyone walking by on those streets. She knows what's normal and what isn't. And she's going to be the one to call her grandchild and say, hey, there's a stranger walking through our neighborhood right now. And he happens to be Al-Qaeda, right? The grandson. Right. So for me, third party awareness was the most important aspect. And so how can I control it? How do I control people I don't even know? It starts with personal awareness, then cultural awareness, right? I can control what I wear. Now I can control how much education I get about the area I'm going, the do's and don'ts, the social protocols and norms, the mannerisms, all of that, right? So now I'm doing what they're doing, and I'm showing respect, and I'm building allies, right? Because I can tell you right now, you show respect in that culture and you get a business card or two, those business cards will get you out of trouble faster than the State Department every single time, because the State Department ain't going to move on your behalf anytime soon, right? So you're building alliances and you're building that respect and mutual respect with the people you encounter each day just through cultural awareness. And that's why it's important we're not the ugly Americans anymore. And then finally, you have situational awareness, which really is, I try to keep it as simple as possible. It's paying attention to your environment, but knowing that, okay, there's a 3-meter bubble we live in. And I like to compare it to a boat. If I'm standing in a boat and the boat's in the middle of a swamp, right? And you've got alligators in your boat, you got alligators just outside the boat, and then you got the alligators that are inbound. So how you observe and how you deal with things is basically like, what can touch me and what's in arm's reach is first, then just outside arm's reach, and then beyond that, right? And if you scan your environment and look at things that way, you're taking a little bit more control, right? And so by doing personal awareness, cultural awareness, and keeping your head on a swivel, now you're taking control of that third party piece, which if you don't observe the other three, then you're just kind of taking chances when you walk out the door.
Hey, it's Brian Rose, founder of the DeFi Academy. I've told you my 4-week crypto bootcamp is amazing, but don't take my word for it. This is what my students are saying.
The DeFi Academy was an amazing experience for me. It took me totally out of my comfort zone.
In this course, I was challenged, I was held accountable, and pushed to do things that honestly weren't always easy.
It's been phenomenal, and I can't believe we're already up on our 4 weeks. It has flown by.
Going through this DeFi accelerator by far was one of the best courses I've taken.
You do this course, you really get into the nitty-gritty of the activities that will make you comfortable with decentralized finance.
Thank you so much to Brian and everyone at London Real and the DeFi Academy for even putting together an amazing course like this.
Anybody else that wants to do it, please sign up. It is well worth the money.